So, did you guys see the trailer for Warhammer 3? You should have, because it was epic. And if you haven't seen it, then go fix that now. Then come back. I'll wait. Okay, now that you're back, as you can see, I am, of course, a big fan of, well, I'm a reasonable fan of Warhammer, Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer 4K, Warhammer 80 Sigmar. So I am quite excited for the, new game that's coming out. It's going to mix with the other two. It's going to be big. It's going to be great. And we already know that the opening playable factions are going to be the four Chaos Gods, Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh, as well as Kislev and Cathay, which, if you didn't know, Cathay was basically Warhammer China. They're a little bit different than that, but it's like how Kislev is basically Warhammer Russia. But that's beyond the point. So anyway, with that all coming about, I wanted to give my, I don't want to say predictions, but what I'd like to see in this game. What I'd prefer to see. Now, this game's always going to focus on the Chaos Invasion, which I was never the biggest fan of in Warhammer 1 or 2. I felt it was a bit, weird and ridiculous and always played by some dumb rules. But I think they're going to straighten out, even with new Chaos factions and obviously the entire game focused around them. I think they'll straighten out to make the system work. And this is what I would kind of like to see for if I was designing the system. First thing, I like to see, now, there's something we've, in the Warhammer Total War community, have developed called the Order Tide, which is essentially the idea that the Order factions will come together and, beat up Chaos. And this is actually a good idea. I'm not basing my stuff off of the end times, in case you're curious, but I have an idea of how they could do it. After, when the Chaos Invasion is going to happen, whenever that happens in-game, which I imagine will be a little bit after, the start of the game, like 100 turns, or like it was in Warhammer 1 and 2, something like that, you'll get this, the Chaos armies will fully start to spawn in the old, well, not the old world, but just in the world in general, start coming down. And then every time a legendary lord, encounters true Chaos the first time, not the Beastmen, not even the Skaven, well, the Skavens are kind of Chaos aligned, I don't know. No, you have to encounter the Chaos Demons specifically. Your first encounter with them, after a few turns, will force you to make a choice. A very dangerous choice. Basically, your faction leader will be encountered and offered by the Chaos Gods to essentially join them and help them destroy the old world, but your nation will still have a place in it if you help them destroy the rest of the world. This is the choice that every faction leader, when encountering Chaos, true Chaos, will have to make. And this is what I'll call the Order versus Chaos conflict, which should spawn around the same time the Chaos Invasion did, but only ramp up in tension. This will essentially mean that the Order and Chaos will be forced to fight each other in a very interesting way. It'll just be, Chaos comes down from the north, it'll be like, oh shoot, insert someone has fallen to Chaos, and now Chaos Demons are spilling over here, die, die, die. And then you and the Order Tide will have to come together to team up and beat them. Now, the benefits of joining Chaos would be pretty easy, because the faction itself would probably lose access to some of its units, like, if you're like, say, I don't know, Call France, actually I don't see him really join Chaos, but let's say you did pick him, and you did join Chaos in this mode, my hypothetical idea, you'd probably lose access to stuff like, the flagellant, Warriors of Sigmar, that type of holy thing, probably, or you might get a corrupted version of it, but you'll have access to certain Chaos units at a high price, essentially. You're trading your few, certain units, but some factions not as much, units to get access to most, or at least a lot of the powerful Chaos units, at upkeep cost, but he's not actually playing as those factions. But what did the Order Tide get as a response? Oh, in case you're curious, yes, a Chaos corrupted faction that joins them does implement the Chaos corruption mechanic. And yes, it can spread like wildfire, like a virus like that. But how does an Order Tide player survive this madness? I mean, this is pretty tough. I mean, your rival, if you're in the middle of a long war with someone, and they just join Chaos, they might be able to steamroll you. Well, that's where an interesting mechanic comes about. What I would like to call the Order Tide mechanic, whatever, is that any race that joins the Order Tide adds a little race meter to it. It's like if one dwarven lord, one high elf lord, and one human lord join the game, like an empire lord, then all those factions can recruit units. Not all of them, but at least the base units from those other factions. The High Elves are able to recruit dwarves at upkeep price. Essentially, the Order Tide goes stronger the more races join it. So, for instance, if the entire old world bands together to fight the chaos threat, or at least one of each race, or stuff like that, then all those factions will be able to recruit from that race pool. So effectively, you can mix and match the different races, so the order tide can be, won. And of course, you can stay neutral in the conflict, but that wasn't really giving any disadvantages so much as just it's locking you out of powerful abilities. So it's like, choose. You don't have to choose, but if you wanna, but it's likely for power reasons you're gonna want to. The difference is though, an order tide race cannot be a war with another order tide race. Chaos might be a little differently, depending if there's like a dedication to the chaos gods mechanic, but I'll just have to wait to see that one. But the main thing is that basically this war will escalate and the different factions will fight, and this will open a new victory path. Basically, regardless of what faction you were playing beforehand, you can still complete your normal objective if it's possible. But if you join the Order or Chaos side, then you'll get a new victory condition that is actually a team victory condition. This is also I like to see implemented with like more than 2 playable co-op or a rival play. Imagine this with like 4 or 6 or something. That'd be epic. But that's my main idea. This is what I want to see. The true chaos versus order we've been wanting to see. This mechanic would allow lord shifting. It would balance out chaos, because like chaos is always powerful in its own right, but then a lord slips. You weren't expecting that to happen. And like now you have to deal with that. But don't worry, the dwarves have shown up, and now you can record them to help you. It's like all these different things. And some lords would, of course, be locked to not be able to switch. Of course, people like like the Chaos Lords are, of course, incapable of switching. They're just naturally stuck to that side. Probably certain Order characters will also be kind of locked into that position, though I would keep it minimal, because the end times will always feel some really stupid shenanigans, and trust me, that wouldn't be the least of it. I just think it would be an interesting mechanic. Of course, there's always a choice, but I think it would be interesting. It would really throw off the game as you expect. Like, you weren't expecting that to happen. Like, and what do you do if you're like Marcus Wolfhart and you're down in Lustria and you join the Order Tide, and the rest of the Empire, because of high chaos crush, they join the Chaos side. So now it's just you against them. Like, they hunt you down, because Chaos Lords always want to take down members of the Uncorrupted Brethren. So all of a sudden, the Old World Empire is now sending fleets over to beat you up. What are you gonna do? You know what I mean? And you have, of course, mechanics like that, where like the Order Tide doesn't want to fight itself, or you get penalties and like that. But the point is, it's all this big, massive battle, and truly to reflect the tagline of "Fight your demons or let them consume you." I think that's what I'd like to see for Warhammer 3. But there'd be other things I'd like to see too, like a mercenary mechanic and a better systems, mostly tech trees. But that's not what I'm talking about. That's what I would like to see, the true representation of the Order Tide.